How much is riding on the Mets this season after moving on from a lot of the fan favorites in that core?
I mean, I think a whole lot is riding on it. Just the idea that David Stearns was able to do this. I mean, this was a really big swing and a really big risk. And so the fact that he was able to adhere to his philosophy and do it in kind of an unconventional way, I think is really interesting and can kind of speak to the future of this franchise and maybe the way that he intends to do business in the future. So I think this season is going to be a blueprint for what we can expect from David Stearns and how the Mets are going to be run. That being said, will it work? Because it is a gamble. There are a lot of players playing out of position. You got Jorge Polanco at first base. You got Bo Bichette over in third base. You know, everybody's got every sort of type of glove, and they don't have that emotional core they have. So one of the questions I do have to ask is, you know, you don't want to build a roster with the idea to like, okay, let me build chemistry, but they do need to have chemistry. So how are all these pieces going to mesh together? And did he do a good enough job in making sure that these personalities can actually coexist?
Listen, you're in New York, whether you're a GM or a player, you know there's so much pressure, and I don't want to put more on the Mets, but man, is there a lot. First of all, can't have Edwin Diaz leave you and go to LA and win a World Series. That would be devastating. And you have to show that you did rip up this core for a reason. There are a lot of scouts out there, guys, who are not exactly sure whether or not this team is as good as last year's team. Are they about comparable? So there's so much riding on showing, yes, vibes have to be better, and that some of these big risks are going to pay off. You jettisoned major household names, and now you've got to build it back up with World Series expectations. And I'll just add one more thing. You know, Bo Bichette, weird kind of contract, interesting contract, but could just be 1 year. And before Freddie Peralta, they have to get him signed to something long-term because he's also a rental. So lots of pressure on this.
I am oddly, maybe it's not even oddly, I am more confident and exact in alignment with what the Mets thinking is. I'm more confident about this team going into the year than I had been in the past, because even coming off of 2024, it was like, all right, in my heart, in my gut, I never believed in that group after what happened in 2022. But because they had the success in 2024, I was like, all right, they add Soto, they did go on a run, maybe they could be a legitimate team. And then they confirmed all my doubts about them last year.
Yeah.
So I am 100% in alignment with Stearns and the Mets thinking, and I believe in the way that they built the team. Is it the best team I've ever seen? No, but they have a legitimate ace, which they needed to do, so the rotation's better. And I like the balance that they have throughout the lineup with better athletes and just well-rounded ball players.
Okay, here's the thing, though, right? So is this about Steve Cohen's perception of this team, or is it about the fans, or is it about David Stearns, what's actually happening on the baseball diamond? Because I think there's lots of data that would show when you turn over a team this much, it's usually not year one where you see the results. It's actually year two. So is there going to be that type of patience, I don't know for the fan base, but that kind of patience to roll with this new core?
I think it is interesting because of the personalities they got. You got a guy like Marcus Semien, who really is a vet's vet, who I think can really coalesce this team a lot. Yeah. And then, you know, the idea of having this really strong defense up the middle is going to be huge. The fact that you have Luis Robert in center field, that's going to be a boon. And with Bo Bichette's bat, even if Robert doesn't hit as much, suddenly you have Bo Bichette to have a little spark in that lineup. It is really well balanced. It is really interesting. And the one thing I really did enjoy is Freddie Peralta. Obviously, this is a top-tier guy. I'm not sure if I would put him exactly at ace level, but the fact that he was already talking to Soto, he's already talking to Lindor, he's already reaching out to all these players, that indicates to me a guy who's willing to put the team first. So when you have all these veteran pieces together, then suddenly I think the runway can be a little bit shorter. But of course, we got to wait and see. No one really knows.
Yeah, and the problem that they have is that the fans are ready to pounce because they got rid of their beloved players with Nimmo and Alonso. So if they don't win, Stearns is going to feel the heat. That's why I do think they're going to win, and they have to.